You're finally back to making videos, you piece of shit! It's been quite the month, you know, 2 trips in 1 month, and I am fucking exhausted. I really am. I'm tired. I just want to sit in my fucking chair, do my work, you know, maybe run some Uber and relax and just kind of take it easy for the rest of the fucking year. But this is a busy time of year when it comes to, you know, dietary advice and shit, because a lot of people are going to be gaining a whole lot of weight. It's the holidays. So why the hell do motherfuckers gain tons of weight over the holidays? Well, for one, we use it as a fucking excuse to break our diet, to break our routine, to reward, being the operative word, ourselves with food. I know I have people watching from different parts in the world, but here in the USA, Thanksgiving's a thing. You know, there's some political correct battles that are going on for that, but we won't get into that bullshit. But needless to say, it's a very celebratory, food-centered holiday where we eat the shit out of some turkey and some stuffing and some fucking carbs and some fucking sugar and some more sugar and more fucking sugar until we just fucking... So you know this is coming. It's the same fucking time every year. We know we're gonna fuck up. You know, if you make it through the holidays, and I plan to make it through this upcoming holiday remaining ketogenic, because, you know, I can just not eat certain foods and eat the shit out of other ones that I like. You know, there's meat and fat that is a part of, you know, you can have a salad with meat and, you know, turkey and all of that, but not getting into the ins and outs. I know I'm a realistic motherfucker, and, you know, this video is going to be a long one because I got a lot to discuss, because I've experienced this multiple times as far as cheat days, as far as saying, fuck it, I'm just going to eat what the fuck I want, I'm not going to worry about it, I'll fix it after, you know, and there are some pitfalls that I personally have run into, that I've watched other people do this and run into, and observations I've made over the past 3 weeks, you know, having a very contrasting, you know, vacation experience. You know, the first St. Lucia trip being the workcation, because I had a lot of photography work that I'm still fucking working on. And then, you know, the vacation, which was the trip to Disney, which was planned well in advance. But I've been triggered on so many levels during Disney that I need to make multiple videos to talk about this shit. And the first video I want to talk about, you know, is our need to celebrate or cheat or be social with food. It's a thing. And even people that are trying to be healthy will pressure you to join them in their hedonic behaviors. It's an honest to God thing. And the reason for that is a lot of the times you trying to be good during these periods is going to make them feel like shit. It's going to make people feel guilty about what they are doing. Hence, they're not gonna fucking like you if you are trying to be good. Now, that's fucked up in a way. You know, you should respect somebody's decision to be healthy, you know, but at the same time, you know, if you're the healthy one, you shouldn't try and detract from their, you know, health, you know, unless you're calling them out on something here and there. But for the most part, my problem is shutting the fuck up during these periods. I'm not good at that. I admit that I'm that guy at the party that's like, you're gonna fucking die, you know, if you're eating lots of sugar and carbs and shit. But at the same time, that's a two-way street that really doesn't get addressed. And there was somebody on this trip who was trying to be healthy the wrong way and insisting that their way was the right way. They were clearly trying to do eat less, move more. They were counting their calories. They were very interested in their steps and really limiting their portion size. Considering we were doing 20,000 steps per day, you know, in most days, you should not be restricting calories in that situation. You should be eating the amount of calories to sustain that level of physical activity, or your metabolism will fall. And it will create plateaus or weight regains when you bring that, because the hunger always wins in the end. You'll bring your fucking intake up, and your body will rebound from any weight lost during these periods of heavy physical activity if you weren't careful enough to consume enough calories to offset the workouts you were doing. And make no mistake, Disney is a constant workout. You can easily offset it with the shitty foods that are plentiful and just around every corner, and there's enough sugar in there to give diabetes to the next 20 generations of motherfucking human beings to pass through there. This is not a place of health. Disney is not a healthy place by any stretch. It is designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to take all of your money. It really is. That's everything that I saw at Disney cost a shit ton of money. You know, there are good experiences to be had, but I don't want to get too far into that. But as far as food, me personally, I ate shitty on about 4 of the 6 days. I had a couple days where I stuck with keto and didn't eat till I could eat from the supermarket, you know, and I bought keto foods at Publix, you know, a couple times. And just when we were done for the park for the day, or whenever we weren't at the park, I was trying to stuff my face to keep up with the amount of physical activity we were doing. And I was doing so with cheese curds, you know, not the best keto foods. I didn't have salad or anything. There was no greens coming in, so there's that. But I made sure to get plenty of fat. I put tons of fat in my coffee. I got protein from the cheese curds. Some pepperoni was mixed in occasionally. Lots of nuts and seeds, pecans, that kind of stuff. I did buy some mixed seeds. And there was some protein bars, which are processed and shitty, but I needed to try and balance out the amount of physical activity with the amount of food I was eating. Now, when I did eat shitty, it was to varying degrees. There was sugar involved. I did have desserts. I did justify it with that whole, we're on vacation. How many times are you going to go to Disney? You might as well enjoy it. With a caveat, because I believe the shitty foods I ate detracted from my overall experience, because I ended up with a fucking splitting headache that lasted 2 days. While I was there. I don't have headaches, except if I got fucking shit-faced and had a fucking hangover. I had a headache for 2 days after a sugar binge. And the sugar binge happened during an all-you-can-eat buffet where I was like, oh shit, this is my chance to load up on calories so that I can fucking... And I did follow it with the keto day the next day. And, you know... But I ate my face off. I ate pasta. I had bread. I had fucking cheesecake. I had fucking cookies. I went buck wild on that because A, it was an all-you-can-eat buffet for $40, which, if you do the math, is a really good deal in a Disney environment. And so I loaded up. I loaded up intentionally, and as a result, I paid for it with a massive headache for the next day or two, probably due to dehydration from making new glycogen, you know, and filling up the glycogen stores at a rapid, insane pace, and an overabundance of sugar caused a massive amount of bloat. I gained a fucking inch around the belly temporarily. It went away within a day, but it was not a good idea. So what I thought would be pleasurable turned out to cause me long-term issues. As in, 1 hour of great fucking enjoyment and dopamine spiking with the sugar and the pasta and the huge insulin response and only a slight energy crash, which was interesting. I have become a lot more efficient, I guess, with this stuff. It used to just take me out when I did this. I'd have to take a nap, I wouldn't be able to fucking move barely, whereas now I experience maybe about a half hour of low energy followed by normal energy after that. So that was probably the worst of it. That all-you-can-eat buffet was my worst thing. There was another dinner where I had a cake, a 7-layer cake afterwards, which surprisingly wasn't as sweet as I thought it would be. So, that doesn't mean there wasn't way too much sugar in it. So there's that. And then there was another day I went to Waffle House and had a slice of chocolate pie at the end. And, now I got to pay the piper. So what happened? I gained overall 5 pounds over the course of this vacation. My belly size after the slight balloon up dropped back down to 36.5 inches. But I'm not ready to celebrate yet, because you don't notice it right away if you're doing that level of physical activity. It's in the days that follows, your body's response to you returning to your normal shit, that will really tell the story of how much damage you did. So I'm not ready to celebrate only gaining 5 pounds during this trip. I want to return to my normal levels, and it's going to take a while. I am going to pay for this 6-day vacation with probably 2 weeks of aggressive fasting and aggressive keto. And by aggressive keto, I mean just getting my body back into the swing of fat as the primary macronutrient, and mainly getting the carbs back down, getting the glycogen tanks emptied, which I'm doing right now with a 72-hour fast leading into a ketogenic Thanksgiving. And then I'm pretty much going to be keto probably for the rest of the year at the very least. I might break it on New Year's. Don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to transition back to ADF and just stick with ADF. I don't plan on doing any long fasts after this 72-hour fast. And I just want to see what happens over the course of the year where I stick to keto and I eat my ADF protocol, 36 on, 36 off, and go from there. So what are the lessons that I learned, through this experience and prior carb ups? There is a lot of damage that you don't really quantify with the scale. One of the things I lost during this trip was my mood stability. The depressions returned. When the sugar caused that roller coaster that I've talked about in the past. If you watch back on my addiction video, the mood stabilization that comes with a ketogenic diet does go away if you break the diet. It's not a permanent fix that you can just jump in and out of. If you go back to that sugar well, you are going to go back to the emotional roller coaster, the stressed environment, the depressions, the insane amount of mental problems, the fog, the brain fog that returns, the energy balance issues. You're going to experience moments of exhaustion that you otherwise wouldn't have. All of the benefits on the energy and psychological level of a ketogenic diet go away the minute you cheat and take a while to come back. Almost to the point where you might have to take 2 or 3 weeks to readapt to being ketogenic again, which I am now having to do and doing it faithfully, and very, very happy to be back from this shitty food environment. I really am sick of it. I'm watching people destroy themselves around me. They're guilt tripping me for guilt tripping them on the deal, when we're just ignoring the base problem. And it's not the fact that I'm trying to be healthy, it's that the rest of the world is not. Or they think they are, and they're doing the wrong things and getting pissed that you don't agree that those are the things that you should do. And then criticizing everything you do. And my favorite's when you do cheat You know, for somebody that hasn't been around you very long, doesn't know you very well, they don't see that you've, gone 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 6 weeks without carbs and sugar, and so you're a dick for having 1 or 2 days of it. And that of course completely dissolves makes you a hypocrite or whatever for doing. No, that's not what it is. It's trying to function in a social environment. There's a social dynamic to food. It's been ingrained in us. We have a holiday dedicated to it. And other holidays are very food-centered. Like Christmas, for example, is going to be a food-centered holiday, which I might even fast through, to be honest with you. But, it's an issue. And it's easy to fall into the addiction of it. Now, if you are obese, if you are not metabolically fit, if you're diabetic, if you have heart disease, if your blood pressure's, having to be controlled with medication, I do not recommend falling off the wagon at all. Because it goes beyond just the weight loss setback and the emotional setback and the stability setback at that point. You are legit going to reverse your progress as a, diabetic. Your blood sugar is going to shoot right the fuck up, and it's going to do so quickly into the 200 to 300, 400 range in some cases. And that's not good for you. So that moment of pleasure that is fickle for maybe an hour, is it worth doing that kind of damage to yourself? No. Now, if you don't have these issues, and I don't, I don't have any blood sugar issues. My blood pressure's fine. My blood lipid profile's fine. I don't have any heart problems. So when I cheat, I'm really just looking at regaining weight. I'm insulin resistant, and if I were to do these things on a regular basis, I would become obese again. I would jump back into the diabetic, pre-diabetic realm that I've left behind, and I would have problems. If you have come all the way, you're everything's normal again, your body weight's in a reasonable range, your health markers are all good, you're not on medications, then I would say, yeah, an occasional cheat day with being very mindful of it and what you have to do and making it not a daily thing or a weekly thing or a bi-weekly thing. Make it a special occasion thing. We're talking once in a lifetime events and stuff like that. Not everybody you know's fucking birthday. And then, yeah, you could probably get away with a healthier carb up if you can. I still think you shouldn't go balls deep into it. You shouldn't be in there fucking drinking soda and eating candy and eating cookies until no end and just gorging yourself on the worst fucking carbs you can find, spiking your fucking insulin way to hell up to the point where you might have high insulin even when you're at a fasted range. It's, you got to be careful. It's an easy to fall down rabbit hole, and if you have an addictive personality, I would argue against doing it as well. I can get sucked into sugar. I found myself craving it. I found myself wanting to go back, but it took the knowledge of how good I felt when keto, how good I felt when fasting, the incredible health progress I've made over the past 3 years, to really bring it home that my preferred state is a ketogenic state. My preferred, the way of feeling and the way of being able to think and the being on the emotional roller coaster that is sugar and refined carbs, consumed to excess, getting on the blood sugar, hypoinsulinemia, hypoglycemic fucking bullshit that you end up in, that cycle of fucking hunger and cravings, that roller coaster of energy. I know, I've seen both sides now. I've lived both sides. I grew up and well into my 30s eating the standard American diet plus Mountain Dew and as much fucking baked goods as I could cram into my fat fucking face. And now that I've been on both sides, I am planting my flag on the keto side. Majority of my life, not to say I won't have cheat days like I did on this fucking, adventure, but they're not going to be every month. They're going to be once in a great while, because it's easy to get sucked into that, well, I'll do this every weekend shit. Or I'll do this every other weekend because I've earned it. And you're going to slow your results if you're trying to make progress, because when you do one of these things, you're going to spend almost a full week recovering, just getting back to where you were before you had that cheat meal, before you had that cheat day. And if you had a whole cheat weekend, you're going to not even fully recover before your next cheat weekend if you're doing it every weekend. You shouldn't. I've done it. I've tried this. This is the voice of fucking experience talking. I have tried every form of carb cycling that you can fucking think of. I've done the, go fucking exercise and then have a carb night fucking protocol. I've had the once a week, if you don't exercise a lot, and have your cheat night once a week and stay away from meats and fats and just eat carbs. Boy, did I feel like shit when I did that. I've done the once every 2 weeks thing. And all it does is tempt you. It keeps you on that fucking roller coaster. It keeps your cravings alive and worse. And eventually you cave. Because you're constantly exposing yourself to a highly addictive substance, which is sugar. And these, high glycemic foods that you immediately put on shit tons of weight when you switch back to these foods. And you're, quite frankly, in less of a position to deal with the assault of the standard American diet if you've been healthy for a while. You're not going to do as well as somebody who's just stayed unhealthy. Now, long term, you're going to do better. But in the short term, your symptoms are going to be exacerbated compared to a normal motherfucker. By normal, I mean the average overweight, unhealthy, sick person that's eating the standard American diet. They're going to tolerate the diet a lot more than you are. You're going to find that some of the sugary foods are just too fucking sweet for you. You're going to find that your energy response is not optimal. You may get headaches. You may get nausea. You may just feel like complete dog shit from head to toe. There is a whole host of issues that probably wouldn't crop up as much if you were full-time fucking eating that way. But at the same time, you're not going to go through the 20-year death cycle of a diabetic or the heart disease or the stroke or all that other shit that the people that live this way every day are going to end up enduring as they age. And the sad thing is a lot of them don't know it. They don't care because they don't have any symptoms yet, other than being mildly overweight or obese. And some of them have come to terms with, this is just how I am. I like food. Fuck it. And that's unhealthy thinking, because you're going through a whole lot of suffering. And I noted that in the person that was with us. They were going through an undue amount of suffering for their diet, and they were trying to restrict their calories at the same time. And it just wasn't working. They were sick almost the entire trip, which could be an infectious thing, but you should rebound. I thought maybe I was going to get sick for a day, and then I was fine. I wonder if the headache might have been part of fighting something off. I don't know. But there's all kinds of suffering that you tend to overlook when you eat unhealthy, that you just don't really notice until it's gone. And that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where I notice when that suffering is gone. And I like it. I like not suffering. Feeling good, feeling healthy, feeling, normal. To me, the way you are on a high sugar, high carb diet is not normal. So, not to take a shit on your holiday, I just advise caution, If you can stay keto through the holiday, you should. And there's really no excuse not to, since it's a grocery store centered holiday. You know, if you're not having a prepared or cooked meal, pick wisely if you go out to eat. You know, but if you are having a cooked, prepared meal by your, you know, grandmother or mother or whoever, for any holiday, this doesn't necessarily have to be Thanksgiving. You know, don't be rude. Don't downplay all of them. Don't give them a 2-hour lecture on how they're going to die unless they ask. If they ask, I do, you know, or if they, because everyone's going to comment. That's the other thing you run into too. You know, people ask why you're not doing this or why you're not doing that. And I'm the asshole that tells them. And then I'm an asshole for telling them. You know, it's just how it is, you know, and I explain myself and it pisses people off because it makes them feel guilty for what they are doing. And people don't like that. You know, people want to feel good about what they want to enjoy their, you know, dopamine spike from that food. They don't want you to call attention to the fact that that's going to kill them 15 to 20 years down the road, or at the very least reduce their quality of life to a point where they'll be miserable the rest of their life. They don't want to know that right now. All they want's their fucking cake. It's not chocolate chip cookie good to fucking think about what's going to happen in 15 to 20 years. No, they want the chocolate chip cookie and they want to enjoy that shit for the 10 minutes. You know, that it lasts, the little pleasure spike. And some people, they're so pleasure spiked all the time that they don't even get a pleasure spike. They just do it to feel a little better in the moment than they normally do. Or they're trying to get back to baseline at some point because they've sugared themselves to death pretty much. But, you know, a word of caution. That's it. You know, go into it with open eyes. My advice to somebody who wants to enjoy the holiday meal is, first of all, limit your sugar intake as much as possible. And it can be done. Now, if you're eating breads, you're probably getting some sugar there. If you're eating dressings or barbecue, there's sugar there. That should be it. You shouldn't get a dessert at that point. If you can have fruit for dessert, that is better than fucking, you know, cake and cookies as far as, you know, fructose content. You know, so if you must have a dessert, do it in moderation. I did not do that, and I regretted it. I should have just had a little hunk of the cake for the flavor after the meal and then passed it off, you know, or not even ordered it to begin with and maybe had like a spoonful of someone else's dessert and just said, okay, I'm good. I need to train myself to do that. That is something of self-improvement I will do in future cheat meal situations, which are going to be entirely social, because when I'm by myself, I'm going to eat the healthy way. I enjoy it. I like eating that way. It's when I'm in these social environments that I feel pressure to not eat. Or if I'm going out to eat, there's all kinds of pressures associated with that, because there's just not a lot of choices for people who are keto. You know, you either have to eat a salad and get your dressing off to the side and get some meat, and, you know, but you're not going to get a lot of fat. So, you know, I supplement that with fat in my coffee, obviously, in that case. But you just got to kind of, you know, weigh the pros and cons of what you're doing and respond appropriately. If you are keto and you eat a fuck ton of sugar one day, you're not going to feel very good the next day, or maybe even a couple days after. You're going to bloat. You're going to experience the energy roller coaster. Your mental clarity is going to diminish. Your mood stability is going to diminish. Your scale is going to go up rapidly, 4 to 8 pounds, depending on how bad you fucking do it. And it's going to take a significant recovery period that I often lead off with a fast, like I am now, a 72-hour fast, and then, you know, transition back into my routines and stabilize. And it may take a week or two to recover. Allow your time to recover, but then allow your time to progress after. And if you do it bi-weekly, you're not allowing that. You're not staying in fat burning mode and making progress at that point. You're pretty much just having a recovery period, then a shitty eating period, then a recovery period, then a shitty eating period. You're not having a shitty eating period, recovery period, progress, you know, so on and so forth down the line. So keep it with the special occasions. Keep it with some holidays, not all holidays. Not all holidays require you to go off the fucking rails to celebrate, not even your birthday. That's my advice. My advice is, first of all, if you know you're going to cheat, prep. You know, do a 72-hour fast before the holiday in question. Make sure your glycogen stores are done. 72-hour fast will make sure your glycogen is depleted throughout your whole body. You'll know it is happening because you'll piss like a motherfucker. Between the 48-hour and the 72-hour mark, there'll be a pissing period of where you're getting up in the middle of the night to piss. You're pissing so much. That is your body dumping off the excess water weight, the excess salt. That is the water being taken from the glycogen as you burn it off. And you're just going to eject it. And you're going to lose a decent amount of weight just doing that over the 72-hour period. But now you've got a clean 2,000 fucking calorie storage tank for the carbs that you're about to consume. Very easy to fill that tank. It'll fill very quickly. It's not hard to eat 2,000 carb calories. It's not, you know, you can get a piece of cake dessert that's easily 1,200 calories, you know, most of which is sugar and carbs. So, you know, empty that glycogen out going into it, because a great portion of what you're going to eat will be used to replenish your glycogen stores. However, if you're overdoing it on sugar, you are overdoing it on fructose, and you are still making bad fat and fattening up your liver. So it doesn't matter if your glycogen's empty. If you overload your liver and it fills up your 800 or 900 calories of glycogen in the liver, usually, but if you overwhelm that system, you're still going into de novo lipogenesis and creating bad fats that are completely fucking up your liver. So that's advice number one. You know, do a prep fast. Empty the glycogen. If you don't have a 72-hour fast in you, then you need to do a full body workout sometime during your fasted period to burn off excess glycogen. Notice I said burn off excess glycogen and not fat, because when you're exercising, when you're moving more, you're burning glycogen off. You're not touching your fat till that's gone. The next thing you want to try to do is exercise moderation when it comes to refined carbs and sugar, the things that are going to pop your insulin up the most. One way of doing this would be to confine the debauchery to one meal a day. Fast the rest of the day. Give yourself a 4-hour eating window to really take it all in and enjoy it, but cram it into a shorter window. This means your insulin spike won't be very long, because over 3 or 4 hours, your insulin will drop. You'll know, because your energy will drop, and you'll experience that carb crash, that carb coma. And just ride it out. You're going to be tempted to eat again. And if you give into that, then you start the cycle where you're constantly craving these things and wanting to eat all the time. And you need to break that cycle. And it takes an amount of willpower to do it. But if you allow yourself to fast the majority of the day that you are about to have your cheat meal, that limits the damage. You know, you're not refilling. Most of your meals going to refill your glycogen. You will get full, most likely, before you make shit tons of fat. You're still going to make some fat, especially if there's a lot of sugar. But, you know, you're highly limiting your ability to fuck yourself by reducing the eating window when it comes to the sugar and carbs. If you're having a physically active thing like I did in Disney, the ball game changes a little bit, because if you just do the one meal a day and you're highly physically active and you don't consume enough calories in that one meal a day to offset the physical activity, which you can pull off if you're eating carbs, you definitely can out-eat a day of walking on a single meal and you're hungry enough to, usually, because of your hormonal response, especially if your hormones are on point from being keto. You just got to keep that in mind. You don't want to be in an energy deficit during this period, because your body will take a lot of that and make fat, because it wants to restore any weight loss you may have done over the past several months. And it'll want to do so rapidly, and it knows it has the energy to do it and uses it appropriately. So if you're going to do it, limit your eating window. Another thing, limit your sugar. Refined carbs and sugar. If you can get by just having fruit as your source of sweet during this cheat meal, then eat fruit. Try and keep the dessert as healthy as you can. Not easy. Sugar's addictive. You want that cake, you want that ice cream, you want this, that, and the other. That's fine, but know the difference. Know that that's it. You have that big-ass dessert, and then you're done with sugar for a while, and you should be. You don't 3 hours later sit down with some more sugar. It's not what you need to do. Get your one dose, go through your withdrawal, which you will, which you'll go through the cravings and the wanting and the desiring and all of that, and the mood swings and all of the shit that comes with sugar. But you got to ride the withdrawal from it out and move on. Don't have more sugar once, you've done that. Otherwise, you'll get sucked right back in. And I almost did. On this trip. I had dessert a couple days in a row, and it was getting to where that's all I could think about was, where can I get my next dessert? And I had to break that cycle with keto foods. Whenever I had that craving, I'd eat something keto to fill me, to satisfy me, and kind of get me out of that cycle. And that's what you got to have to do. Don't worry about fasting so much the first couple days after. Switch back to keto. Eat whenever you're having a craving. Eat something keto that's kind of close. That'll give you a hint of sweet, or a hint of this, or a hint of that, without, into the veins with the sugar. So that's pretty much how you get through it. The social part, depends entirely on the kinds of people you're dealing with. You're going to get several types of people in this situation where you're socially eating. You're going to get the hedonic types that just completely don't give a fuck and want to do whatever the fuck they want, and they think you're stupid for doing what you're doing because they're enjoying life and you're clearly not, and whatnot. Those are the people who are, not seeing the big picture. You're going to get the I love food, I have a slow metabolism, bullshit types that are trying to kid themselves that they're trying to do the right things to be healthy when they're really not. They're just depriving themselves of the energy that they need to the point that their metabolism slows down, and they end up in that hamster wheel of eat less, move more that just keeps them in the gym, keeps them miserable, keeps them hungry the majority of the time. And a lot of those types of people are in denial. And they need to address that if they're ever going to get healthier. But until they do, they're just going to be miserable with their life. And, you will be. You don't get that much pleasure from those meals. You don't. You get maybe an hour of pleasure. And then you're back to wanting more pleasure. And that wanting more pleasure stresses you the fuck out. Makes you depressed. Makes you miserable. Makes you angry. Makes you fucking jumpy. Makes you snappy. Makes you an asshole. In that cycle. So, there's those types. Then there's the types who are on board with keto and fasting, and, this person knows who I'm talking about. who are just like, I fucking don't give a shit, I'll get back on the horse later, blah, 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 blah. And I've done that. I've done that I've been that person. You can go back to my earlier videos and say, I can do whatever fuck I want. I'll eat this, that, and the other thing, and I'll just fast afterwards, and it'll all be fucking better. It took many times of going through this cycle of having cheat meals or cheat days and then spending the next 4 days recovering from the cheat days. And then just as I was starting to get back into the swing of things, having another fucking cheat day. And I broke that cycle, thankfully, with doing intentional keto adaptations over and over again, mind you. And carb cycling occasionally, you know, it kind of breaks that cycle. But as time goes on, I've become more and more keto-centered, as in I want to be keto the majority of the time. And I do stress majority. So, you know, there's those types of people. And that's the hardest for me, is because I've seen all the work that they've done to come as far as they have, and they just go completely off the rails. And I don't think they realize how hard it is to bounce back from that. As far as your hunger levels, your cravings levels are going to skyrocket. The first fast you do after a situation like that is going to be very difficult, and will often fail. I've failed in the past after a cheat weekend. Oh, I'll just fast, and then I end up not fasting because the cravings are so crazy, or the hunger is so crazy. And you know, I got out of that. And so it pains me when I see someone who's trying to do the right thing and then just takes a break, but during the break just abandons all, you know, willpower at that point and just goes nuts. And that's a binge. And a binge like that can be detrimental. It can take you a long time to recover from. And was the binge worth it? That's the question. Was the enjoyment you got from what you ate worth the next 2 to 3 months of recovery you may have to do, depending on how bad you let it get? Is it worth the emotional roller coaster, the stress, the you know, problems that will arise when you do that? So hopefully he doesn't get triggered that I'm talking about that, but that was one of the types of people you will deal with in these situations. And of course, it goes without saying, you're going to deal with the eat less, move more crowd, the, you know, the doctors doing it this way, you're an idiot, they're not types that are just completely dismissive of any progress you've made over the past 3 years or 4 years or however long you've done this. They want to rationalize it in some other way. Oh, you must have eaten less calories because you fasted, which isn't the case. We try to eat as much as possible. Anybody knows you can out-eat a 24-hour fast. You can out-eat a 36-hour fast. You know, it gets more difficult the longer the fast is, but eventually your body will bounce back if you're not careful from these fasts. Even a 72-hour fast, your hormones will rebound you if you're not careful. And it might take multiple days of eating for that to happen, but it does happen. You can regain all the weight that you lose during a fast if you are not mindful. And being mindful of the types of foods you're eating is the only way to combat that. You know, if you break a long fast with the standard American diet, you will regain the weight every time. All of it, and then some. You know, it's just a fact of life. So ask yourself when you're going into these holidays, you know, how can I mitigate this? And you should be trying to mitigate it at every level. You should be trying to keep the sugar down, trying to keep the refined carbs, the breads, the pastas, that stuff down. You know, I like potatoes, so I like to eat potatoes. It's glucose. It refills the glycogen. There's no fructose involved in that process generally. So, yeah, I do some potatoes. There's a high glycemic index for those, though. So you're getting a huge insulin response from the deal. And if you have bad blood sugar control, that can be an issue. So it's all individualized as far as how much of a cheat day you can and should have. You know, there are some motherfuckers who are highly physically active too that can probably get away with a little bit more in the carb department because they are constantly diminishing their glycogen through exercise. But as long as they're eating enough calories, that is. If you are in a caloric deficit and you're doing it that way, your metabolism will slow, your weight will creep up in the days following the binge. You may go a couple days thinking, oh, I didn't gain that much, I'm great. That's not how it works. You know, you have to be mindful for a couple weeks after the cheat day to see where you're at, how much damage you did. Damage doesn't happen overnight. So it'll be interesting to see how fucked I am. Over the short term, I gained 5 pounds. Very little gain around the belly. That could change. That could still go up. You know, I'm not out of the woods yet. 72-hour fast will help. Breaking it ketogenically will help. Sticking to keto and ADF in the coming month will help me get back to where I was before this. I'm looking at a couple, 2-3 weeks probably to recover from this vacation. Because, you know, so basically it's going to take me 3 weeks to pay for 6 days of eating what the fuck I wanted to eat. For the most part. I did try and mitigate it by being keto a couple days. Financially, too, is another reason I did that. We'll get into that in the minimalism section of my trips. But for the most part, the food situation in Disney was shit. It was either really overpriced to be healthy. You know, you were talking $50 to $75 for a meal. If you wanted to be kind of ketogenic, and even then you're getting snuck some sugary shit within your meal. And there's also, of course, carbs aplenty. Can you be keto in Disney? Yes, but it's going to cost you. You're going to have to be very picky. You're going to have reservations in some restaurant somewhere that has a menu that will allow you to remain ketogenic. One of the places we went was Tiffin's, and I saw the potential to be keto during that day. That was no dessert that we did. I had coffee, and the coffee was great. It was French press, which was awesome. Then I ordered the cheese appetizer, which came with a palate cleansing bread that was very hard and stale, which led me to believe there was no sugar in the bread. Otherwise, it would have retained some moisture or some flexibility. Ate duck for the first time in my life. The duck was fatty. So I had a fatty meat. There was a smidgen of potato on the plate I had. But overall, you know, some of the sauces might have had some kind of, the sauces that were on the plate with the duck might have had some sugar content, but overall that was a fairly keto meal. The problem I had with that meal is it was very small portioned and expensive as fuck, and I did not get enough calories to offset the amount of walking I was doing. And that was the situation I found myself in. I could go eat these really expensive dinners, not get enough energy in one meal from those dinners, have to supplement them somehow, or have a crazy-ass dessert to get the calorie content up, which is a shitty thing to do. It's not something you need, you know, I need calories, so I got to eat shitty food. No, that's not what I'm advocating there. I'm just saying in the situation, it seemed like the best course of action for the time. That's why I did that at the buffet, is I overconsumed. I was like, I'm going to make some fat and then just burn it off as I go. Didn't quite work out that way, but, you know, like I said, I paid for, you know, an hour of pleasure with, you know, days of pain. And if you're mindful of the negative effects of the cheat day, it'll become easier for you to not have one. If you're mindful of how bad you feel when you eat carbs and sugar, and you've experienced it enough times to know that that's coming, it will stop you from wanting to do it as much. But that even then, that doesn't overwhelm, if you're an addictive person, the dopamine cycle, you know, of addiction. It doesn't overwhelm. You can't stop that. Not even by knowing. Some people will go headlong into knowing that they're going to be physically fucked up and miserable and feel like shit just to get that little spike of dopamine. And you just got to try your best to be mindful of it. So plan a pre-fast for these days. Do a post-fast like I'm doing now. I'm getting close to 23 hours fasted right now. And then transition back to your normal ketogenic diet and routine and press on. That's if you're keto. If you're not keto, you're going to always experience some issues after eating a standard American diet. You're going to be hungry a lot more. You're going to have a lot of issues if you're a carb burner. And I've done that, First 50 pounds was not ketogenic. It was just fasting. And what led me to keto was managing the hunger hormones, to getting my appetite working properly, my apostat working properly, and dumping a shit ton of water weight I was carrying around. So that's the advice for your motherfucking holidays and shit. Now you gotta bear with me over the next fucking couple days. Because I have a backlog of photography to edit. Then I have to tear into the video that I shot for both trips. I'll be putting together some minimalism shit. I'm also going to keep trying to put out normal talking head videos, but they're not going to be every day because I do have lots of other work I'm trying to get done, and I don't want to overwhelm myself and burn out. So transitioning back in, I plan on doing a patron-only live stream on Sunday because I owe them one for the month. And if you're not a patron, that will be available to all patrons, whether you donate $1 or you donate $50 or whatever it is you do a month, to help support this channel and to support me taking the time to sit here and talk to you guys about shit. Just keep in mind that the more I am able to sustain myself with the income from you guys helping me on there and watching and subscribing and watching the ads and all of that through YouTube's ad policy, I am able to do more of these videos. And if I can't, I still have to make the money and pay for this expensive ass fucking trip I just went on. So I'll have to do Uber and other things and other photography clients to fill in the gap at that point. So I want to get in a position where this is what I'm doing majority of the time for a living, and you guys have me well on the way to doing that, and we're getting closer and closer to me being able to stop doing Uber and maybe be a little more picky on photography clients after a while. And I want to thank all of my patrons for sticking with me even through this vacation where my content was minimal. I did keep up with the blog, which is what you get for $1 a month over on Patreon, where I type a little daily update on what's going on and thoughts and so on and so forth. And I try to interact with everyone as much as possible on Patreon as well. So there's better communication there than here in the YouTube comments, which get a little overwhelming sometimes. But remember, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And I'll make more shit. So enjoy your holiday. Do the best you can. Don't stress yourself about it. Have your cheat day. Have your cheat meal. Prep for it. Prep for after it. Plan to recover. Plan your recovery before your cheat day. Have a laid out plan on what you're going to do in preparation for the cheat and what you're going to do in recovery for the cheat. And then once again, ask yourself that question, is the cheat day worth all of that? If the answer is yes, have your cheat day and don't sweat it. We all know how to recover from these. If you're okay with the amount of time it takes to recover, then there's no reason why you can't have a cheat day. It's not going, in the grand scheme of things, unless you're doing it every week, going to destroy you. It's going to set you back, probably anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks, depending on how bad your cheat is. And you're pretty much starting from scratch with the keto adaptation, with the mood, with the cravings, and all of that after that. And if you are okay with going through that process over and over again, then you can have more cheat days. But I don't recommend it. I recommend focusing on how you feel when you're being healthy versus how you feel when you do these cheat days, and start thinking about the contrast between the two. And you'll find you'll want more healthy days than cheat days. And that's where I'm at. I was craving getting back to my normal routine, my normal diets, and getting away from that shitty food environment that I was in while I was in Disney. And by shitty, I mean unhealthy. I don't mean that they didn't taste good. A little overpriced, but there was some tasty food there. Just getting back to normal was, I was desperately missing it. And I'm happy I'm back. So, enjoy and shit. Have a nice motherfucking day. And shit.